Greetings, amigops, and top teners everywhere. Welcome back to another episode of Top 10 with Kyle and Mike. I am your co-host, Kyle. Opposite me today, as he is every week, is your wonderful co-host, Michael. He looks like he's comfy. He's sitting in a big, nice chair. He's down to an undershirt. It looks like he's settled in for a nice, fun podcast. This week, as we do every week, we will be discussing a top 10 list. Now this week, Michael has put together a list. The topic is one that I do not know yet. It is entirely undisclosed and will be a surprise to me. Over the course of this next hour, Mike and I will vigorously debate the contents of this list before arriving at a definitive top 10. Michael, what will we be discussing today?
So, as you and I were discussing on our little pre-show catch-up, we both recently saw the film Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. It's an excellent film. Importantly, one of the co-stars of that film is a young actress who we've also been watching on a television show that both of us watch, Stranger Things. The actress is Maya Hawke. She is the daughter of Ethan Hawke and Uma Thurman. And
what?
Yes, did you not know this?
No, her name is Uma Hawke.
No, it's Maya Hawke.
Because if they had just done Uma Hawke, that would have been great.
Yeah, that actually would have been pretty awesome. But she looks exactly like her mother. And I think I was watching Stranger Things and was like, well, that person is clearly related to Uma Thurman. And then had a conversation with my dad about how it turned out she's actually Uma Thurman and Ethan Hawke's child, which I did not know was a thing. I didn't know they were ever together. Point here is, she is a celebrity offspring who is on her way to being great. So what I want to talk to you about tonight is the greatest is kind of one angle to look at it, but really the way I want to look at it is the least disappointing celebrity offspring. Because celebrity offspring have a tendency to really disappoint.
Yeah.
However, there are many who have not disappointed. So that's what I want to talk about tonight. I basically have two main criteria. One is that the parent or parents, in some cases, have to be legitimately famous. This can't be so-and-so's dad was, the third trumpet in the backup band for Frank Sinatra. You gotta really be a famous parent.
Yeah.
And the kid has to then either, really match or elevate or in some way add to the legacy of this family.
Okay.
So those are my main criteria.
But it only needs to be one parent?
Yes. Okay. In some cases there are two, but it only has to be one. Now, here's the final thing that I want to talk about. I want to do something that I don't think we've done. I'm forgetting now whether we've done this. I kind of think we might have done it once. I want to do 2 top 5 lists.
What?
We haven't done that, right? Or did we end up doing that for something?
We talked about it, and then we just kind of put it on the R&D pile, and we haven't talked about it.
All right, well, we're R&Ding it tonight,
Wow.
as I like to do sometimes. I'm trying something new. The reason we're going to do that is because when you start doing this list, there's basically athletes and famous people. And I think that they're different enough that they're sort of hard to rank against each other.
Wow.
So I've got a top 5 for athlete kids and then kind of general celebrity kids.
Does that mean that we're splitting everything in half? Are we going to do a not top 1.5 for each of these lists?
I actually now am realizing I only did a not top for the celebrity one. I don't know why I didn't do one for the athlete
I'm glad that's the one because I feel like we can think of on the fly more disappointing children athletes.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, because we're gonna have to add Bronny soon because LeBron's kid is definitely not going to turn out to be what people are claiming he is.
He's definitely not going to turn out to be one of the 2 greatest players ever.
Probably not. It would seem unlikely.
Yeah.
So for the athlete side, just as my cutoff, the parent had to either win some sort of major individual championship in their sport, or if they're a team athlete, be named an all-star at least once.
Wow. Okay. The parent did or the progeny?
The parent did.
Ah, I see.
And then hopefully the offspring did something even more than that.
Okay. All right.
So are you kind of following where we're going here?
Definitely following. I love this. I'm very excited.
All right, so do you want to start? Well, which list do you want first? It's Choose Your Own Adventure.
No, I am on the shoulders of a mighty river. I would say let's go with the celebrity ones first, just because that's the first one you mentioned. But that is entirely up to you, sir.
I like the idea. Let's do celebs.
Okay.
All right, so I'll start you off at number 5.
Number 5.
Number 5 is a pick that I am probably overrating because of my deep affection for her. So, coming in at number 5 is the daughter of Quincy Jones and Peggy Lipton, Rashida Jones.
Oh Lord.
So Rashida Jones's mom, Peggy Lipton, was a famous model and actress from like the 70s, 80s. She was in Twin Peaks. She was in a lot of big modeling campaigns. Very famous woman. Her father, Quincy Jones, is one of the most well-known record producers of all time. He, I believe, was the producer for the Thriller album and a lot of Michael Jackson's work.
Shit.
So her parents are exceptionally famous, and I think that Rashida Jones has really taken their legacy into a new generation in a really cool way, because she's in a field that is kind of different than her parents. Her mother was known also as an actress, but really was primarily known as a model, and her dad was in the music business. So I think her being known primarily as a TV actress is kind of a cool extension of their legacy.
Well, it's very impressive because, like, at least the couple of people I've already thought of in my head are, like, following exactly in the steps of what their parents did.
Yes.
And this is, like, she has 2 very talented parents, but she's kind of channeling that talent into a new area, which is definitely more impressive. Like, you don't have necessarily... it's not like she learned how to do it from watching her parents her whole life. That's amazing. Also, like it makes perfect sense that Rashida Jones's mother is a model because she's among the most beautiful women out there.
Yeah, absolutely. It's pretty fantastic. Rashida Jones, definitely not a disappointment to her parents.
No, I wouldn't think she's a disappointment to anybody.
Yeah. Ready for number 4?
Yeah.
All right, number 4 is an actor who did follow pretty directly in his father's footsteps. Bit of a late bloomer. A guy who didn't really break out for a while, but who is now among the most bankable and kind of well-known actors on the planet. That is Josh Brolin, son of James or Jimmy Brolin. So James Brolin is just the kind of guy who's had a really long and successful Hollywood career. I was looking through IMDb pages and stuff to look for kind of notable roles. It's hard to pick. He's just been around and been famous for 50, 60 years. He was on Westerns. He was on a bunch of TV shows. Big deal. Josh Brolin, when you start looking at his body of work
it's
at
insane.
This point, it's pretty crazy. So he was nominated for an Oscar, which I didn't realize, for Milk. I don't know what role he played. I think he might have been on the city council. I'm probably fudging that, but he was in the movie Milk. Obviously, No Country for Old Men. Sicario. He's the Avengers.
Don't forget he's Thanos.
Right.
And he's Cable.
Yes. Yeah, he is. He's a big deal. He's all over the place. And he's done it, I think, in a really cool way by carrying on his father's legacy, which is as a really ruggedly handsome guy, but a guy who can wink and kind of play it straight or play it, kind of funny.
This is gonna be really strange. It'd be like saying that like your favorite James Caan movie was Kicking and Screaming, but the most impressed I've ever been with Josh Brolin was in Men in Black 3 when he did young Tommy Lee Jones.
It was incredible.
And
it's stupid, but he brought a real intensity to that and did a great job.
It was like he was intense like Tommy Lee Jones was, but it was also like tongue-in-cheek, like very funny because he was able to do it so well. And I think it speaks pretty well to what you're saying. Like he's very versatile, but also like when he turns up the intensity, like in Sicario, like,
oh god, he's crazy in that movie. Like when he starts just chewing gum, like the way he chews gum is so scary in that movie.
He has one of the best lines ever in that movie. when she asks him like all these questions about how the cartel works, and he's like chewing gum, and he's like, "You're asking me how a watch works. Why don't we just keep an eye on the time?" And it's like, oh my god, this guy's so fucking cool.
That's a great line. I don't remember that one, but that's so good.
It's such an amazing line. Anyways, that's Josh Brolin. Whew!
Yeah, Josh Brolin. Hell of a guy.
And I think, one last thing on Josh Brolin, and I think notably, probably at this point, even more famous than his father. Like, I guess it depends who you ask, but I think it's probably safe to say that.
Yeah, I think that's probably the case.
At least people our age.
Yeah, certainly. Yeah. But I think he's on track to, when the history books are written, to end up being the more famous of the two Brolins.
Yeah. So, good one.
So, number 3, this is another one of those celebrities who just basically needs no introduction. Jane Fonda. She is the daughter of Henry Fonda. So, Henry Fonda is best known for starring as Tom Joad in Grapes of Wrath. He was in 12 Angry Men. He was in On Golden Pond. So he had just an incredibly illustrious old Hollywood career spanning decades and decades. He, I believe, won the Oscar for On Golden Pond. He's just, really a staple of old Hollywood. And then Jane Fonda, his daughter, has been nominated for 7 Oscars and won 2, and is probably one of the more famous celebrities ever.
It's kind of... What did she win Oscars for?
You're gonna give me a tough one. One was the China Syndrome, I think.
Hold on, I've got it up here. Okay, so you're right. She's been nominated 7 times. She won Best Actress for Coming Home in 1978. And she won for Best Actress in a movie called Clute in 1971. I don't know.
Called Clute, huh?
I don't know what that's all about.
The hell is that? That sounds like... That was a term we used to use in my house for farting.
A small-town detective searching for a missing man has only one lead, a connection with a New York prostitute. She's probably the detective.
Wow. Well played.
Yeah, that's awesome. And I mean, 2 times, like, that's a pretty short list of people who have won Best Leading twice.
Yeah.
And also, I if people aren't familiar, because I mean, she was probably at her like peak of her like award-winning career, 40 years ago. But more recently, people probably know her from like Grace and Frankie. That's a pretty popular show. And then I think she was on The Newsroom too. So like she's definitely been more active on like the TV front recently, but definitely a very highly respected actress.
Yeah, absolutely. She is she's an American treasure, and I'm sure Henry Fonda is very proud of his offspring.
Even though she is definitely more famous than he is.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
No doubt.
But he certainly, in his own right, I mean, his role in Grapes of Wrath particularly is a Hollywood classic.
I mean, don't get me wrong.
Yeah, we're not here to hate on Henry Fonda.
No, that's certainly not the case. We're here to appreciate young Jane.
Yeah. All right, you ready for number 2?
Yeah, like what do we do? Like, do we just do the whole list and then do like not top 3s and honorable mentions at the same time?
I think that was kind of my plan.
Yeah. All right. Fuck it.
If that's all right with you.
No, I like it. We're just figuring it out as we go.
Yeah. All right. So number 2 is one of this is just an epic father-son duo. Like epic. The father is Carl Reiner, who most famously created the Dick Van Dyke Show.
Yeah.
Like created the Dick Van Dyke Show and also had and is having a Hollywood career of probably like 7 decades. He has been famous forever. And
he was in Toy Story 4.
Yeah, exactly. A lot of people here would know Carl Reiner as the crabby old guy from the Ocean's movies. Like he's a treasure. And his son, Rob Reiner, is extremely well known for many things. Most famously, of course, Jessica Day's father on New Girl. Also known for his role as, Meathead on All in the Family. He directed and maybe wrote as well several of these movies, but famously directed Princess Bride, A Few Good Men, When Harry Met Sally.
Yeah, it's kind of stunning, like, that he's in New Girl and the way he is. Like, he has some crazy movies underneath his on his resume, like, that he wrote and directed, was a part of. So I'm just looking at his directing credits. This doesn't count all the crazy, like, the insane amount of stuff that he's produced. Spinal Tap, The Sure Thing, Stand By Me, Princess Bride, When Harry Met Sally, Misery, A Few Good Men, all in sequence. What a run!
That's like maybe the all-time greatest directorial run. That's got to be up there with anything Spielberg has done.
That's insane. And then that doesn't even count all the stuff that he was acting in. So, like, this is stunning. Like, if you were to sum up the total fame / notoriety / accomplishments of The Parent and the Child, this is definitely appropriately high on the list, because combining the two is an insane amount of celebrity. I can't believe that run. That, like, I didn't.
That's crazy. That's all in order.
I didn't skip anything. that's
Jesus.
Wow. Good for him.
Yeah, those are some of the biggest hits. Like, and not all, but most of those are original, works, and they're all different, and they're really thoughtful. There's just that's a pretty incredible run of movies.
Good for him.
Yeah. You go, Rob Reiner. All right. Number one. I'm kind of I'm cheating a tiny bit, but not really, because there's really one son who this really goes to. It is two sons, with the understanding that one of them is the one we're really focusing on. These are Lloyd Bridges' boys, Bo, and of course, Jeff Bridges.
But mostly Jeff Bridges.
Yeah, this is primarily going to Jeff Bridges. So, Jeff Bridges has been nominated for 7 Oscars and won 1, which seems like an absolute travesty when you think about the career he's had, that he's only won 1 Oscar. Though I will say, I would like to give him as many of these retrospective career-long awards as possible, because it increases the chance that he'll give a crazy stoned speech that lasts like 10 minutes, the way he did at last year's Oscars. That was just incredible. Like, he was just floating and having the time of his life. So, Jeff Bridges is a son that Lloyd Bridges, who's another of those old-time celebrities who's just got such a long sheet that it's hard to pick anything. But the listeners probably know him best as Izzy Mandelbaum from Seinfeld, but he's had a career in Hollywood for many, many years.
I think he's probably most famously in Airplane, right?
Yeah. I'd say Airplane and Seinfeld are the things that he's probably best known for late in his career, like that an audience of probably our average age might know.
Yeah. That's definitely what I know him from. But as far as what I know Jeff Bridges from, that's a very long list. And as we were talking about Josh Brolin and, like, kind of... Actually, like, it's actually kind of a pretty similar comp. Like, Josh Brolin and Jeff Bridges, like, both of them have, like, this very kind of rugged kind of stereotype that they play into a lot, but also they do a lot of stuff off... Like, he does a lot of stuff off that. And, like, for Bridges, most famously as the Big Lebowski, is the dude. But, like, a lot of his stuff, he's a cowboy or a tough guy or whatever. Like, I'm thinking True Grit and Hell in a High Water. And
yeah, he can play it straight.
Yeah, for sure. For even you younger folks, you might recognize him as Obadiah Stane from Iron Man. Based off your recommendation, I went and listened to the Crazy Heart soundtrack, and he's a very talented musician as well.
Very talented.
Yeah.
He's a terrific musician. And don't sleep on Bo. Bo has had an excellent career in Hollywood, too. And they famously played brothers in The Fabulous Baker Boys. And so they have shared the screen together in what was a very popular film in, I believe, the 90s. So they've been together. And Bo Bridges is also an excellent actor who's I can't think of any big roles off the top of my head because he's not that kind of actor, but he's been kind of a character actor for a long time who's done some great stuff.
Yeah, I mean, even if he hadn't done anything at all, this would be an impressive gene pool, but to have two in the same family is very impressive.
Yeah.
So, great little list you have here, Mike.
Yeah, so that's the scoop. I am going to hit you with, I'll go not tops first, and then I'll give you other and honorable and whatever, and we'll buzz through that.
Okay.
Could you help me prompt our dear friend that it's time for some not tops?
Yeah, Kev, hit the stank! Nice.
Wow. I actually will say that I've been smelling the stank all day. I went to the gym this morning.
Ew.
It's near the beach. And for whatever reason, there was some low tide coming in.
Ugh.
Boof. So this is just my second stank session of the day.
Wait, that's super gross. Thanks for sharing that. Kev, actually don't. If you could just stick around for another maybe 20 minutes, I think we're actually going to have a second not top 3 later. If you could just, he's packing his stuff up. He does not look happy. I think, hold on. I think he's going to stay.
Thank you, Kevin. Kevin is, of course, on location in Chicago today. He flew from Boston to Chicago for this week's episode.
Yeah, he does not
quite
look happy.
Quite a budget he's running.
Disclaimer: we do not know Kevin McLeod.
We do not know Kevin McLeod, but we assume he's super handsome and wonderful.
Yeah, no question. Who'd you have on your not top 3?
So my not tops, Jaden and Willow Smith. I don't know, kind of useless, especially given that both of their parents. So this is a situation where Jada Pinkett and Will Smith are both awesome, and their kids are both kind of like, whatever. You're
just salty because you can't whip your hair back and forth.
I cannot whip my hair back and forth, that's true. But I'm also salty that movie, whatever the hell it was called, what the hell was that movie called? With Will and Jaden where they're on some planet together.
It's Earth, you dipshit. It's called After Earth.
Yeah, After Earth, that's what it was. It is Earth?
Idiot. That's the whole the whole twist.
Yeah.
In the trailer, it's like, what is this planet? It's Earth.
Yeah, great.
What?
So Jaden and Willow Smith.
It was Earth?
Next is he of Tiger Blood, Charlie Sheen. I might even lump Emilio Estevez in here because Emilio Estevez is just like warm milk. I loved him as Coach Bombay, but and I think he was in whatever that stupid cowboy movie was in the 90s with all the Young Guns. I think it's called Young Guns. So he had a little bit of a run for himself, but like Emilio Estevez is whatever, and Charlie Sheen has had pretty well documented issues. And it's all strange because Martin Sheen's entire reputation as an actor is for being kind of kindly and fatherly. Like he's the president that people would actually want.
He's like the one character in The Departed that you feel bad died.
Yeah, oh, sure. Especially when his blood sprays like 6 feet in the air.
Yeah, that's tough. The thing with Charlie Sheen, though, is that I feel like his trajectory was such that he could have actually made this list, like as having surpassed his father's legacy.
He did. He when he was running, like when he was in his prime in the 80s and 90s, he was far more famous than his father was, and was probably the most famous celebrity in Hollywood for a 5 or 6 year stretch.
For a minute there.
All right, so next one is a person is probably my least favorite celebrity. Daughter of Blythe Danner, who most folks probably know from Meet the Parents, Gwyneth Paltrow. She sucks so many butts. She's the worst.
Yeah, you do not like Gwyneth Paltrow.
Not a fan. And anybody who says that their life as a Hollywood celebrity is harder than that of working moms, I just ain't nobody got time for that. Like, get the hell out of here with that garbage.
It's a tough beat.
That's a tough.
It's a very tough beat.
And then this is kind of mean. Actually, this one's really mean. But I put John JFK Jr.
Oh man,
I don't know. He didn't really do much, and then well, it didn't end well. I don't know. He just didn't really do anything for me. And he's JFK's son. Like, come on. The other Kennedy kids the other Kennedy kids have done more than that. I don't know. I just, whatever. Nicole Richie. Lionel Richie is very famous and has put together quite a body of work. One that I know brother of the pod Cam loves.
He sure does.
But Nicole Richie is most well known for her work on The Simple Life.
Yeah.
All right, so now I'm going to give you quickly just two random celebrities who I didn't know were famous people's kids. Emma Roberts.
Oh.
Do you know that she's Eric Roberts' daughter?
Sure didn't.
AKA Sal Maroni. Like, she's Salvatore Maroni's kid. She didn't know. This one is so random. I cannot believe that the internet told me this. Do you know who Mariska Hargitay is?
Sure don't.
So she's from Law and Order SVU, I think.
Oh, of course.
She's an actress who you'd actually recognize and who's been on TV forever, ever. But, you know, whatever. She's a household name because she's been on TV forever. She's Jane Mansfield's daughter, which I had no idea. So Jane Mansfield, people listening will know from the famous picture of, oh God, I always forget who's looking at her, but she is busting out of her top, and who the hell's looking at her? It's not. I don't want to Google this because I'm on my work computer.
Yeah, so am I.
Kyle, can you? It's Sophia Loren. Sophia Loren. So she's leaning over and her boobs are about to fall out, and Sophia Loren is giving her side eye. It's a very, very famous photo. And Mariska Hargitay is Jane Mansfield's daughter. So those are my random celebs. I'm taking up too much time, so I'm gonna go honorables. Carrie Fisher, daughter of Debbie Reynolds. That's like pretty legitimately should be considered. Laura Dern, daughter of Bruce Dern, who played the old man in the Once Upon a Time in Hollywood film. So that's a legitimate option. This is one that I did not know. Did you know Jamie Lee Curtis is Tony Curtis's daughter?
What?
Yes.
Oh my God.
Yeah, I had no idea.
Wow, how did I not know that?
I don't know. Crazy shit. I didn't know that.
Holy fuck. That's awesome. I love that.
Isn't that great? I really like that, but I didn't know.
I also like that Rob
Reiner. So both
Reiner
of Jessica's... Yes. Yep.
Wow, that makes me super happy.
Yeah, both of Jess Day's parents. So theoretically, her grandparents on that could be like a gay couple of Tony Curtis and Rob Reiner.
Well, it would be...
Or no.
Carl Reiner.
Carl Reiner and Tony Curtis, which I really like.
I'd watch that sitcom.
Although then yeah, I would too. All right, so Jamie Lee Curtis, Kiefer Sutherland, son of Donald Sutherland.
Yeah, I had them.
Angelina Jolie, daughter of John Voight.
What?
Yeah, that one you should know. That's famous.
I didn't know.
You didn't know that one?
No.
Yeah. Yep. So Angelina Jolie, daughter of John Voight.
Fuck.
Michael Douglas, son of Kirk Douglas.
Yep.
That's another one that kind of wind the clocks back, and it's the 80s. He's like number one on this list.
Yeah.
Because he's Moses' son, and he's also Gordon Gekko. Like, that's pretty crazy.
Yeah.
And then this is my other list. Miley Cyrus, daughter of Billy Ray Cyrus. Kate Hudson, daughter of Goldie Hawn / stepdaughter of Kurt Russell. Alexander Skarsgård, son of Stellan Skarsgård.
Yep.
Dakota Johnson, daughter of Don Johnson and Melanie Griffith. Domhnall Gleeson, son of Brendan Gleeson. This is one that I found out recently that I think most people know that I just didn't. Liza Minnelli, daughter of Judy Garland. I had no idea about that one.
That was rolling around in my brain somewhere, but I couldn't have told you that.
Yeah. Now we're scraping the bottom of the barrel for this one. Bryce Dallas Howard, daughter of Ron Howard. Also Ron Howard, son of Clint Howard. And then last, this is legit. This is a real, like, pretty legit celebrity kid. It's Ben Stiller, son of Ann Mira and Jerry Stiller.
Yeah. That's a good one.
If you have any, I'd say throw them in here, and then we can re-rank after we do athletes, if that works for you.
I had a couple, but you mentioned them. The only other one I would add is, as an honorable mention, not serious, is Scott Eastwood. People know who he is.
Oh, yeah, from The Last Ride.
Yeah, and, like, nothing else.
Yep, and then nothing else.
But, like, Clint Eastwood is so famous that it's worth mentioning.
Yes. Any one of his 13 children by, like, 6 women should qualify.
All right. Well, our very first ever top 5 list is at least in its draft form. So should we move on to your other list?
Yeah, let's let her rip.
All right.
Number 5. This is a father-son baseball duo that is near and dear to your heart.
Oh, boy.
The son very famously appeared in some television commercials as a kid with his dad. He also was well known in Sports Illustrated years before he made it to the bigs for hitting 400-plus foot dinghies at the ballpark while hanging out with his pops. He is they are the only father-son duo to both hit 50 home runs in the major leagues. We're talking, of course, about Cecil and Prince Fielder.
Obviously.
And Prince is no disappointment. Prince is like a few of these. He's sort of in the Josh and James Brolin mold. He did exactly what his dad did it really well, and I'm sure he made his dad quite proud.
Yeah, and probably did it better than his dad. Like, Cecil Fielder was definitely a prodigious power hitter, but he went to Japan and then found his stroke, and then he played quite a while after that, but he was like really, really good for like maybe 2 to 3 years after he came back from Japan. And that's when he was at the peak of his fame and powers. Whereas Prince had like probably a solid 10-year career. And was like one of the best power hitters in baseball for that entire time. But I would be curious to see what their actual career wars were.
It's funny. I actually pulled that stat together for just one father-son duo because I was trying to find sort of unique things about these athletic pairs. But the actual career war is an interesting thought. Like, what's the highest combined father-son career war would be kind of interesting. So I'm seeing Prince as 23.6 according to Baseball Reference.
Okay, wow. Yeah, so Cecil had a career war of 17.2, which I would have expected a bigger gap, but that's interesting.
Do you notice one other stat that really pops on Cecil's stat line?
His D war is not very good.
I'm just enjoying his 2 stolen bases.
Oh, wow. Good for him. He finished
2 career stolen bases.
He finished second in MVP 2 years in a row. That sucks.
Wow, that's brutal. But also a very interesting reflection on the state of baseball at that time.
Yeah.
That he was a MVP runner-up with a WAR of 3.8.
It's tough.
Also, he made $9.5 million for a couple of years there. I'm blown away by how much money he was making at the end there. That's a lot of dough for a player in the 90s.
Yeah. Yeah, he did just fine. And so did Prince. So
yeah, he sure did.
Yeah. Wow. All right, great pick.
Yep. All right, number 4. This one I was surprised to include just because the dad was better than I thought. I think of the son, of course, as one of the greatest quarterbacks to ever play football, but I didn't know his dad was quite as good as he was. So I'm talking about Peyton and Archie Manning.
Yeah.
So Archie Manning actually was a 2-time Pro Bowler. I thought he was just like a, guy who was great in college and then was okay in the pros. And he had like a 12-year career with the Saints, and he did make the Pro Bowl twice. And that is a proud dad who has sons totaling 4 Super Bowl wins. And Peyton Manning won 5 regular season MVPs, which is a remarkable feat.
That's pretty wild. Probably even more impressive than 2 Super Bowl wins when you think about it.
Particularly given what we know about the teams that he won and didn't win the Super Bowl.
I'm mostly thinking of the Broncos.
So the team he won the Super Bowl for, he was holding that team back.
Yeah.
Whereas when he was winning those MVPs with the Colts, I think you could pretty easily argue he was dragging a team that routinely was lacking, a coach just to start, and often a defense much farther than it ever should have gone. So those 5 MVPs were seasons when he was just electric.
Yeah, and it's worth noting, you mentioned it, but Eli has become a bit of a joke now, but it's nothing to snip at. That's 2 more Super Bowl wins, like you mentioned, and he's maybe a Hall of Famer, probably a Hall of Famer. I don't know.
I think ultimately he probably won't end up being it, but it is a conversation that people are having, which is pretty stunning that a father would legitimately be talking about 2 of his sons being considered in that class.
That's wild.
Yeah,
I'm proud of you, Mike, for now that it's all over and it's clear where Mr. Brady sits on the charts. You can
that has made it a little bit easier for me to be so big spirited.
Yeah, it's weird because a few years ago you were really not this open to talking about Peyton's greatness.
Yeah, and I will say, just while we're on the topic, I am quite enjoying finally the narrative swinging back on Rodgers. It's pretty crazy how far the pendulum has swung, and probably too far to be fair, but it has swung back from the ridiculous, just, masturbatory bullshit that was going on the last couple of years about how great he is. I think it's definitely gone too far, but still, I'm glad it's coming back.
I love this, that you've gone from mostly Peyton, and then you had a few years on the Breeze train, and now and now that train has kind of left the station. So now it's Rodgers. Who's now, and then next year it'll be Mahomes, probably.
Patrick Mahomes.
You're next, Mahomes.
All right, so number 3. Number 3 is interesting. Number 3 would be number 1 without question, except that it's safe to say that Dad was probably disappointed a time or two by this son. So this father-son duo holds an incredible distinction that I didn't realize. Incredible. When Bobby Bonds retired from Major League Baseball, he had the most 30-30 seasons of all time. He had 5.
Wow.
The most 30... Think about that. That is not the sort of echelon I think of Bobby Bonds living in. But he had...
At least not in the power department.
No, 30-30 seasons in MLB history with 5, and then Barry Bonds is the only person with more than him with 7.
You should mention that 30-30 is 30 steals and 30 home runs.
Yes, which is just an incredible combination of power and speed, and particularly for the time that Bobby Bonds was playing. Guys hitting 30 home runs wasn't just a routine thing.
And now it's weirdly flipped where, if a guy were to have 30... it would be way harder to get 30 stolen bases than it would be to hit...
That's a really good point. Yeah, the Ricky Henderson, what did he steal, 130 bags one year? That's a pretty untouchable statistic. But if not for the alleged steroid use, this would be number 1 easily, because Barry Bonds is a son to be proud of in all senses on the field.
Among the greatest hitters to have ever played baseball. So
yeah, I mean, it's so easy to forget because of all of the negative PR around him. He was unbeatable. I mean, there was a several year period there where if you threw the ball to him, he hit a home run. And there was, basically no question about it. That was all he did was walk. I mean, we've talked about his statistics before. He had an OPS of 1.4, an on-base percentage of 600. He was in a whole different world.
There was some stupid stat where he led the league, he had twice as many intentional walks as the next closest person. Yeah. And he had been walked with the bases loaded 10 times in a single year or something.
Yeah. He just was so dangerous. So that's Barry Bonds, son of Bobby Bonds.
That's a good one.
Was better than I think we need to than I think I remembered.
Yeah, I would not have guessed that about him.
No. So number 2 is a father-son hockey duo that is truly remarkable. Hockey News released a list of its 100 greatest players of all time, And this father-son duo, and I'm now forgetting what order, so I'm going to tap dance for just 1 second. do, do, do. Well, I try to remember what the order was, because one of them... All right, I've got it. So, number 8 on the Hockey News Greatest Players of All Time list is Bobby Hull. And number 64 is Brett Hull.
Yeah.
Hockey has been around for quite some time. Hockey is a sport that has had a lot of players. There have been a lot of great players, and hockey is a sport that is into mythology. Like it's a little like baseball in that sense. People love mythologizing these players. So those sporting news and hockey news type lists tend to be stuffed with guys who, people remember from the 1930s, but they never actually watched them play. So to be a modern player that high on the list it's really a mark of what a great player you were. Bobby Hull and Brett Hull are 64 and 8 on a list of the greatest hockey players of all time. Holy shit.
Yeah. This one is near and dear to my heart because I grew up watching Brett Hull play on the wings, which is really fun. I would just it's kind of fun because like I never knew that his dad was among the greatest to ever play. Like as a kid, I just knew Brett Hull, and he was iconic in his own right. But which is sorry, just to be clear.
So Bobby the father is number 8.
Yeah,
and Brett the son is number 64, which could theoretically tell you he's a disappointment, but no father, no matter how demanding, could reasonably imagine his son would grow up to be the 8th greatest hockey player of all time and match dad. 64 is a hell of an accomplishment.
64 is pretty good.
Yeah, I mean, that basically means if you did, assuming that the distribution of player positions is kind of even, if you were to draft fantasy teams, he'd be on like the 3rd or 4th team of players.
Of all time.
Of all time. That's really something.
Yeah. Well, plus it's worth noting, actually, it's who knows, but Brett Hull at least won a couple of Stanley Cups in an era when it was much more difficult to win the Stanley Cup, I imagine, than his father. So
yes,
that's important to note too. I know he won at least 2 with the Wings, or not? Yeah, no, one with the Wings, at least.
Yeah. So that they actually, I'm looking right here. They both scored 1,000 points. The father and the son scored 1,000 points.
Exactly
in the NHL. No, like 1,000 plus.
Oh, okay.
That is just silly. That is silly.
That's wild.
Yeah. Well, that's Brett Hull and Bobby Hull. Number 1. So the number 1 proudest, least disappointing athlete offspring of all time. He ranks this high not only because he is probably the purest hitter of his generation, but because the ways he made his father proud go so far beyond his individual accomplishments. Kyle, why don't you tell the people who's number 1, and then if you could explain exactly why he was able to make his dad so much prouder than any of these other ones, even though other athletes accomplished so much.
So we're talking obviously about Ken Griffey and Ken Griffey Jr.
Yes.
And as you alluded to, Ken Griffey Jr. had, I can't think of a more beautiful swing. Like a lot of times people
work of art.
A lot of times people say like the most beautiful left-handed swing. Like it's an unnecessary qualifier because it's just the most beautiful swing ever. I think what you're alluding to is the fact that they played on the field together at the same time, which
they actually did. To go even further than that, in my research, I uncovered a factoid that I did not realize. Not only did they play together on the same team, they hit back-to-back home runs.
Yeah. That's crazy.
What an unbelievably mind-blowing thing. Like, the list of things that have to coalesce for a father and a son to both be playing in the league at the same time, to be on the same team, to both be, good enough to be continuing to play, blah, blah, blah. Just like go down that list. And then to have them go back to back. Could you even imagine something cooler than doing that with your dad?
I'm trying to think what it's not even the same as like if your dad is an actor acting in the same movie as your dad. Like it's in the ballpark.
But
it's different because like if you can like there's the ages don't need to line up.
Yeah. Yeah. There's the assumption that you could be playing father and son.
Right. And like there's no reason that like a studio couldn't hire both of you, whereas like a team can't just like sign like, whatever. It's like it's such a wild thing. Like, I don't know. It'd be interesting to see how many other times a father and son played on the same field, period, but like on the same team. And then to extrapolate to them hitting next to each other in the same order that must have been the greatest moment of his life. Ken Griffey Sr. to see your...
I would imagine that was I gotta think that other than the birth of his son and maybe other children, like, probably the greatest moment of his life.
Yeah, it's gotta be up there. Yeah, and like Ken Griffey Jr., I guess maybe at the end of his career you could consider him a disappointment, but he'd already had one of the greatest careers of all time.
Fat Ken Griffey Jr.
Fat, asleep Ken Griffey Jr. in the Mariners clubhouse in the sixth inning.
Poor crying Ken Griffey Jr.
But before that...
Before all that,
yeah. That's that. The second you mentioned this list, I figured they'd be number one. I'm glad they are.
Yeah. All right. So just in the interest of time, I'll run through the honorables. So my one other, because it doesn't actually count because the dad never reached any All-Star games, is Dell and Steph Curry. I didn't realize Dell was a lesser player than I thought he was. I thought that he was an All-Star, but he was not. So in my honorables, Joakim Noah. I didn't know this. His father, Yannick,
really
won the French Open of tennis.
How about that?
Isn't that incredible?
That's
and
fun.
Then Joakim won Defensive Player of the Year. Of course, he's an excellent ball player, but his dad was a Grand Slam champion in tennis.
That's really cool.
Yep. Dale Jr. and Sr.
Yeah.
I didn't put Mario and Michael Andretti because I don't give a shit. But Dale Jr. and Dale Sr. Dale Jr. had 26 wins on the Cup circuit, and Dale Sr. had 76.
Unbelievable.
Which is pretty remarkable because according to the old trusty internets, Dale Jr. is in the top 40 of all time with 26, and his dad won triple as many. So that's pretty remarkable, and I think Junior is an example of somebody who was burdened by his father's success, but who seemed to carve out his own niche and do really well for himself. I think people who were expecting him to be a reincarnation of a guy who was widely considered one of the best racers of all time were probably disappointed, but I don't think his dad would have been disappointed in him because he found his own way and was really good.
Yeah.
Another one, this is a situation where the dad was probably a little bit better, but still... Clay Matthews Jr. and Clay Matthews III. So the dad is Junior, and his dad, Clay Matthews Sr., I believe, also played in the NFL. And his brother, Bruce Matthews, also played in the NFL. And Clay's younger brother, Casey, is also in the NFL. And I think his cousin, Jake. Like, this is a little bit of a proxy for the entire Matthews family. They're like the suitors in hockey. There's just this ridiculous group of people who have all played. But Junior was in 4 Pro Bowls, and the third, the Clay Matthews we all know and love, has been to 6 Pro Bowls. I think most people would probably still say that Clay Sr. or Clay Jr. was the better ball player, but
yeah,
incredible nonetheless. Here's one that I didn't think of, but when I was doing some Googling, this was a connection. Layla Ali and Muhammad Ali. So.
Ooh.
Layla Ali actually had an undefeated boxing record. Allegations from some of her opponents that she was ducking good fighters, that she was intentionally scheduling some palookas, but still, she finished her career like 24-0 with 22 knockouts. So
yikes! Look out!
Not bad, and of course, daughter of a guy who's probably considered the greatest. He's probably, maybe next to Michael Jordan, the greatest sports celebrity of all time. I'd say Muhammad Ali is probably the greatest sports celebrity of all time.
Yeah, I think that's safe to say.
And a guy most people would say is one of the top 5 or 6 boxers of all time, but certainly the biggest sporting figure of that era and probably ever.
Yeah.
And then a father-son baseball duo with a combined 82 WAR, Felipe and Moises Alou.
Yeah, I was thinking of them.
So that's the list for the athletes.
Do you mind if I throw a couple? I don't have 3. I have 2 in the not top 3.
Yeah, please.
Kevin, I'm sorry I kept you here this long. Could you just play the stank one more time, just very, very quickly? Thank you, Kevin. I appreciate that.
Truly terrific. Thank you, Kevin. Now you can go.
Thank you. Yes. Okay, he's gone. Okay. So
disclaimer: we do not know Kevin.
We do not know Kevin. These are just 2 tigers that are just
Oh, come on! I already know one of them. This is just mean.
Do you?
Is one of them going to be Alex Avila?
Oh, wow! I didn't even think of him. If anyone it's a disappointment, it's Al Avila. What are you doing, Al? What are you doing?
Yeah.
No, I was actually going to say Daniel Schlereth, the disappointing son of is it Nate Schlereth?
Mark
Schlereth. Cross-sport athletes. Mark Schlereth was a football player, and you might recognize him from... He's on ESPN or whatever. Daniel Schlereth was a lefty acquired in the same deal that brought Max Scherzer to Detroit, and he was gone within like a year. The other one is Scott Van Slyke, son of former All-Star Andy Van Slyke.
I didn't realize he was on the team.
He was actually never a Tiger. So Andy Van Slyke was the Tigers' like 3rd or first base coach for a long time. Scott Van Slyke, I think, played most of his career for the Dodgers, but never quite lived up to his dad's level of fame.
Yeah. Luckily, we'll be reversing this trend very shortly with the ridiculous sun-loaded lineup in Toronto.
That was my first honorable mention. So, just the entire Toronto Blue Jays infield composed of Vladito, Vlad Guerrero's son
of Vlad Guerrero,
Craig Biggio's son. He's got a weird first name.
Cavan
Biggio, and
he went to Notre Dame, which neither of us realized.
No, we did not. And Bo Bichette, son of Dante Bichette.
And weirdly, actually, important connection to an earlier pod we did. His father, Dante Bichette, made an appearance on our Bad Body Baseball Players pod.
Yes, he did.
But weirdly, his son Bo is pretty trim.
Bo is disappointingly trim, I would say. He's a disappointment.
Like that's a good way of putting it. I was hoping he'd look like Mikey Thomas.
Yeah. Well, his brother, I think he might be Dante Jr., looks very much like their dad, so that's good. The only other ones I would add is Austin Rivers, Doc Rivers' son.
He is. He should be on the not top. He's an utter disappointment.
Yeah. Okay. Well, we can throw him in there. The only other one I have is Cole Hamels, whose mother, I believe, was a very good tennis player.
Oh wow!
Yeah.
Well, I wasn't sure whether to include this one or not, but since you mentioned Cole Hamels, I do want to mention Alex Ovechkin. His mother was, I believe, an Olympian. Again, I will be doing a little tap. I will do a little tap dancing because I do have a tendency to make things up unintentionally. I don't lie to the listeners on purpose, but I do forget things. His mother, Tatiana Ovechkina, was a 2-time Olympian gold medalist in basketball.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Jeez, that's kind of fun.
So that's a definite one. That is no disappointment. And Tatiana, 2-time gold medalist. Dang.
That's really impressive.
Yeah, his father Mikhail was a soccer player.
I don't really feel strongly about any of these. I don't even really feel like we need to reorder your list at all. I think it would just be kind of a lot anyways to reorder these 2 lists, but
yes, it would be deeply confusing.
Yeah, it would be a lot. But I also just like part of it is laziness and consideration of time, but part of it is also just that I think you did a very good job putting these lists together. So thank you for doing that. And kudos to you, sir, for pushing the limits of what we do here on Top 10 with Kyle and Mike. Top 5s with Kyle and Mike.
Top 5s!
Well, then, in that case, do you want to recap your lists, and then we'll get out of here?
All right. For celebs, number 5, Rashida Jones, daughter of Quincy Jones and Peggy Lipton.
Yeah.
Number 4, Josh Brolin, son of James Brolin. Number 3 is Jane Fonda, daughter of Henry Fonda. Number 2, the incredible Rob Reiner, son of the equally incredible Carl Reiner. Number 1, The Bridges Boys, headlined by Jeff Bridges, sons of Lloyd Bridges.
I take it back. I want to put Jamie Lee Curtis on this list.
Okay. Let's put her in for Rashida Jones.
Okay, done.
Okay, pretend I said Jamie Lee Curtis, daughter of Tony Curtis, as number 5.
Yeah.
All right, now for the athletes. Number 5, Prince Fielder, portly son of Cecil Fielder.
Yeah.
Number 4, Peyton Manning, horse-faced son of Archie Manning.
Orange Barrel.
Number 3, Barry Bonds, gigantic-headed son of Bobby Bonds.
Yep.
No reason there. Just
had a big head.
Skulls. Just had a big head. That's all. Number 2, toe-headed Brett Hull, son of Bobby Hull.
Some guys just have toe heads.
And number 1, no head jokes about this guy. Just sweet swangin', smooth as can be. He just like jazz embodied as a baseball player.
And he invented or like the backwards baseball cap as made famous by Ken Griffey Jr. Like he didn't invent it, but he popularized it.
Yeah, he's just
iconic.
What an icon is the right word for him. Ken Griffey Jr., son of Ken Griffey Sr. So that's the list, my man.
I would just like to say we can't go this whole list without doing the Showtime. Call me Junior. That's the theme from Ken Griffey Jr.'s Major League Baseball.
Now, if Ken Griffey were to join us, do you think he'd have anything to say?
Call me Junior. Play ball. What else?
Come on, what else would he say? Would he introduce himself?
Oh, yeah. He goes, "Hi, I'm Ken Griffey Jr. Let's play Major League Baseball."
Thank you.
That's right. And then the canned bat hitting ball sound like
yeah. And then you hear the crowd.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh man. Great game.
Man. I think I'm gonna play some All-Star baseball this weekend with Jerry.
I think you oughta. That's the good. Yeah. That's honorable mention. Celebrity duo Jerry and Mike, the famous podcaster, yes. Son of Jerry.
We'll take it. Yeah, you and Jim A can be in the honorable mentions with us.
All right. Well, before we go, I'd like to give a big thank you to Kevin for staying late today. Disclaimer: we do not know Kevin. Do not know Kevin.
He's probably doing charity work tonight.
He's probably doing
for orphans,
doing something amazing. But he did put together our theme music and the Not Top 3s. So we have him to thank for that, and of course, Erin. She did the artwork. She did. If you want to see more of her stuff, you can see it at Sant Design on Instagram.
And speaking of social media, I'd like to thank our social media director, Caroline Labranti, for her terrific work. Yep. If you want to check out what she's doing for us, you can go to our Facebook, our Instagram. Both of those are Top 10 KM, with the 10 spelled out TEN. Check out our Twitter, probably not. Or you can shoot us an email, top10km@gmail.com, if you've got questions, comments, thoughts for a podcast, or you'd like to invite yourself on. We would love to have you, so you can teach us some shit about some shit. And then finally, I know you're listening on some sort of app, but if you want to listen on a different one, we are available on the Apple Podcast app, Stitcher, Podbean, Spotify, pretty much wherever podcasts can be found. Dog, those are the things that I would say.
I think you pretty much said all the things that I would want you to say. That's great.
Yeah.
Excellent work, amigo. Way to push the boundaries of list-making podcasting. You're a visionary.
Thank you. I've been called that before, but it's still nice to be called it again.
You earned it. And you've earned yourself some sleep. I will see you next week, amigo.
Yes, I have stifled yawns admirably throughout.
Very impressive stuff from Mike today, folks.
All right.
Arrivederci.